Hello everyone, I'm Ben and welcome to my channel where I talk about all things mechanical engineering from the tools I use to the lessons I've learned in my career along the way. In today's video I'm going to cover how to make drawings in SolidWorks. Drawings are the final product that is sent to manufacturers and is the contract that says this is how I want my part to look. That's what makes drawing creation such an important and marketable skill to learn and master. So let's dive into SolidWorks. So now we have SolidWorks open, I have just a simple part here. So there's a few ways to create a drawing. You can open a drawing from the home menu. You can start a new from the new tab. You can create a drawing here, like so. Or again, either from this drop-down menu, make drawing from part, assembly, or from file, make drawing from part. I use this one most often, make drawing from part, because usually you model the part first and then you want to make the drawing. So let's do this. Let's make drawing from part. You notice here we get a bunch of different options for our drawing format. You can only show standard formats. These are the ISO formats. You can also create templates on your own. That's outside the scope of this video. So for now, we'll just select a basic A0 template and click OK. Now SolidWorks has pulled up a drawing sheet. And it auto creates this view palette on the right. From this view palette, this is where we're going to get our front, top, left, different views of our parts. So let's just drop some on our sheet. You will click, for now I'll click the front view, and I'll drag that onto the sheet. Then here, I'm going to be auto-placed into projected views, so I can drop different views. Let's say I want the top view, the right view, possibly an isometric view, and this creates views in the third angle projection. To get out of projected view, just press the escape key. And so now I have different types of basic views. And we gathered those from the view palette, which is this menu on the right. Now let's say I want to edit the sheet, what's down here, what sort of text is in this. You notice I can't just click and type. To do that, I need to edit sheet format. Then in here, now I can start adding in features. Drawn, this will be drawn by me, so I can put my name here, signature, date. You can list tolerances, finishes. This is how you would edit the sheet format in this block down here. To get back to editing the sheet, you can just right click again and edit sheet. You can move about the drawing with the scroll wheel in and out, or if you click and drag the scroll wheel, you can move the drawing sheet around the screen. If you want to change your sheet properties, you right click on the sheet in the feature tree and go to properties. Here you can adjust your scale, you can change your standard sheet size, and any other changes you might need to make. So now that we have views on our drawing, let's talk about how to import dimensions. So there's a few ways to do that. One I like to start with is this model items button here under the annotation tab. So if we click that, it brings up this model items properties window. I'm going to go from selected feature and use the entire model. I'm going to import items into all views. And what this is going to do is any dimensions I use to create my model, it's going to auto import that into the drawing. A lot of times this is a good quick way to get started and get the dimensions you need into the model, because a lot of your design intent was how you created the model. So if I click the green check, you notice I get a bunch of dimensions in here. I get the outer size, the size of each wall, and they're not necessarily placed where I want them. So it's important to then go in and edit these dimensions. For example, this one, what is this pointed to? I'm not sure. And do I want this dimension here, or do I want it on this view? A lot of these things like that. So to move dimensions around, you can just click and drag. If you want to move a dimension from one view to the other, you control click and drag that dimension onto that view, and it copies it over there. So say I want this 20 on this view over here. Now I don't need this. I can just click the dimension and click delete. So once you have your import model items dimensions in place, you can then go through and edit them in the which dimensions are where, which dimensions you want, making sure it's clear and readable. You can always add text dimensions. So in this diameter dimension over here, let's say I want to say there's 2 holes, and I want to say the hole is a through hole. I can do this by editing the text in the dimension text, and that will show up here. So this is 2x, maybe I don't need this diameter dimension over here. What if I wanted to add a individual dimension? I can do that with the Smart Dimension tool. Now if I click this drop down area, there's a bunch of different options of different dimensions you could create. You could do chains, you could do ordinance, you could do an angular running dimension, chamfer dimension, path length dimension, whatever you think you might need to properly define your part. Generally, I use the Smart Dimension and the Ordinate dimensions the most. Now from here, I've got the Smart Dimension tool. I can add a dimension from any two features in the drawing and on any view. The other thing I can do once I add a dimension in the Dimension Properties window, I can add tolerance types. All the different types of tolerances: symmetric, min, max, fit, basic, and bilateral. So let's say I want a symmetric tolerance of plus or minus 1/10 of a millimeter. That might be actually a little bit tight for this dimension, but that would be how you would add a tolerance. Now drawings are often made up of more than just views and dimensions. Sometimes you need notes, you need to call out surface finishes. There's lots of different things you can do. And you notice here in the annotation tab, we have hole callouts, we have weld symbols, the surface finish note. You can add GD&T with the geometric tolerance tool. But for now, let's just show how to add a simple note. And you can have a note point to a part, surface, or edge, or you can create it free floating. Let's say I create it free floating. I just want to say notes. And this might be a good way to say what the material of my part is, or other important information, finish guidelines. What about anything you didn't dimension, undimensioned geometry? There's a bunch of different ways you can use notes to accurately define your parts and communicate important information to manufacturers and suppliers. So that's sort of the basics of what you might add in terms of annotation to your drawings. Now what about different views? You can use the View Layout tab to create section views, detail views, auxiliary views, a bunch of different types of views. The ones I use most are a section view. So let's click on that. You can change the orientation of your cutting line in this property windows. For now, let's use the vertical cutting line. Let's place it on this view here. So now I'm creating a section view A that looks at the part in the direction of the arrows cut in half. So it creates this section view so I can see sort of this inside area of the part, and that can be useful for adding critical dimensions that are hard to find from maybe say this front view. Detail views are also useful because maybe I have a lot of features in a tight area. Maybe I have important things in this corner I want to talk about. What a detail view does is it creates a smaller view of the area in this circle at a larger scale. And you can change the shape of this circle with a different sketch or things like that, but this is the type of view you would use to add very specific dimensions that are harder to see on the larger view. You can break those out and more clearly communicate the shape of that part. So that's sort of the basics of drawing creation. There's lots of different tools, lots of different ways to create views. I always think just getting in and playing with it and creating drawings is one of the best ways to get good at this. But one thing I want to go over briefly is what are some different things you can do to ensure you have included the correct information in your drawing. I like to ask myself sort of 4 general questions or work with 4 frameworks. One is, how does the part fit into the assembly? What features attach to other parts? And are those features dimensioned properly with tolerances? For example, if a part has a bolt pattern, you want that bolt pattern to be well defined. What is the use case for this part and how will it be loaded? Do I accurately define the important features that allow the part to be used? So for example, a handlebar could have a length and an outer diameter properly defined so that it meets customer expectations. You want to ensure that those features, again, are properly defined so that when you get the part and the customer sees the part, it meets the expectations. Thirdly, how will the part be measured? So every part has to be inspected to your drawing. And if there's dimensions in your drawings that can't be measured, then your drawing might not actually meet, or your part might not actually meet the drawing, but be accepted anyways. So So you have to think, how is the inspector going to measure this part, and what dimensions should I include or not include so that my part can pass inspection, or so that inspection is useful for my part. Lastly, the thing that I consider is, how is the part manufactured? Different manufacturing methods may limit the tightness of a tolerance you can add, which dimensions are going to be crucial or critical. For example, is the part going to be cast or machined? Do I have drafted surfaces? Different things like that play into how you want to dimension and define your drawing. I think by asking yourself those questions, you're going to be able to know which dimensions and if your part is going to be properly defined. So if you made it this far, I hope you found this video useful. And if you did, please drop a like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.